It is very rare for a school to communicate to parents when it comes to the welfare of the child.
Yeah.
The only time they communicate is when they're asking for fees arrears.
Nakumbuka nikiwa high school nilikuwa na look forward to events za shule because that was the only place I could express myself as a person,
You know, the school system is like a military camp. So when you get the opportunity to get out there, you will even decide to unataka kujaribu kuhang kwa gari ka makanga so that you feel nice.
Have we ever asked ourselves, safety na security ya hawa wanafunzi nani wanaangalia?
Also parents have to be vigilant. You may say I'm paying for school transport. But jaiona mtoto wako kwa hiyo gari. Wewe kazi yako unapigia simu unalipa. But then do you know what normally happens?
What role does the school have in ensuring safety and security of these students?
So you have to take responsibility and be bold enough to make decisions towards minimizing damage.
Does it mean that teachers are trained to handle crisis? We've all been there. Tumeenda shule wote. Primary, secondary, tertiary forms of education. But do we ever think about what goes on in the safety and security of you, a student, from your tender age all the way to college? What considerations are being put in place by yourself and the institution, even government? So today we have a special guest. He'll introduce himself. He has a ton of knowledge and experience dealing with students from all the way, at tender age, all the way to college. And without further ado, I'll let him introduce himself. Atuambie mengi kuhusu hii topic. Karibu sana.
Thank you, Kings. As you said, my name is Benson Masero. I work within the education sector, more so with student support programs. My interest is in improving lives by offering quality education. Personally, I'm a trained teacher, and with that experience, the passion to make sure that people are getting education towards social empowerment is what I do. And I work for an organization that supports students through scholarships. It's known as Education for All Children. We support students from Form 1 through to university and colleges. And I'm glad that you bring up this topic of security so that we can be able to share and see how we can be able to better bring up our students within the school community. Thank you.
Kwa Crimeshield Podcast normally ni conversation tu, tunapiga story because these are things tunaona kwa TV, sometimes tunazisoma na sana kwa mitandao. We look at things that happen and sometimes most of us tunakuwa tu wapenzi watazamaji. Hatuweki any comment towards exactly how do we come up with these solutions. We are quick to point fingers, but we don't really bring up easy solutions. In the podcast, what tunataka to discuss about, the problem and also highlight the solutions towards this problem as well. So basically, with your experience handling students all the way from Form 1 into college, are there insights that you can give us about the policies and protocols zenye ziko saizi during school trips? Because kunakuwa na drama fest, nakumbuka drama fest ama watu wanaenda sports, vitu kama hizo. Are there usually any safety and security procedures commensurate to that?
I think on paper we do have, but in reality, because remember in most cases, like in schools, you are dealing with teenagers who are very sly and they want to explore. And this pressure is on the teachers. So again, when it comes to who takes responsibility, definitely it's the school heads. But then someone has to be on the ground in terms of the teacher. For transport, for instance, I think there's a policy in place that the school buses is 6 to 6. You can't be on the road beyond 6 p.m. or earlier than 6 a.m. We know they are painted yellow. The reason why they are painted yellow is for easy identification. That's another policy. But somehow I'm not sure if we are really following these policies to the latter. So yes, we have the guidelines in terms of getting the students into the space, kama wameenda trip, kama wameenda funky, whatever they call it, symposia, or those functions. The question is, how prudent are we as administrators, that's the school and all the stakeholders, how prudent are we in following these guidelines.
Yes. So sana umesema kwa makaratasi 100%, but tashwishi inakuja kidogo pale kwa
implementation. Unajua dere ako hapo, you see ameweka watoto. We've experienced instances whereby watoto wanaenda maybe trip and there's no accompanying teacher, ama kama teacher yuko ako mashughuli zake, akifika hivi anachomoka, watoto wako huko. And you see, if they know our teacher who is supposed to take care of us yuko, then you see that that's a loophole. They can easily get to engage into other things that are away from what brought them. Remember, in such a forum, there are people from different the spectators kama ni futa tuseme. See people from outside are there. Maybe drugs are sneaking in. All manner of things are happening. So if there's no one checking on these students in terms of making sure that they are secure, then it becomes a challenge.
When we are talking about these trips, sometimes you find that some people get scholarship to play for clubs or play for national team when they're still young, and saa zingine kuna na hii selection which involves hawa wanafunzi kutoka kwa shule where they have their teachers and now to go to a different entity. I also went through such kind because I played for the national team from when I was still in Form 2. So it figures a point where you require the consent of your parent in order to go to a particular place to participate. Does it happen? How do we communicate with parents with regard to these trips zenye zinakuja wakati wa shule?
I think the parent seems to be not involved fully, from my experience. What happens that, of course, the newsletter would go out. What mostly parents are involved in ni saa ile inahitajika utoe do kwenda academic trip. So hapo you will really be involved, tunaenda tuko hapa. But when it comes to things like sports, I don't think I don't have evidence that there's that, for example, kama a kid has to go and play for a particular team. I think there's the assumption that ako shule and then the school is taking responsibility. The issue of consent, not all parents also understand the consent issue. I don't think the school takes that initiative. Not many schools do that to get the consent. So hapo kuna some loophole. Yes.
So that means it's important for parents also to be notified. Kama mtoto wao akona talanta fulani na inafaa ende mahali, not just when it is an academic tour, also when there are other events.
I think experience with most high schools, they are so militarized. They don't want to engage the parent. The parent, you can't just pop in a school even to check on what's happening. Utafungiwa kwa gate, utaambiwa ngoja parents day. But then no one is calling you. Maybe they will cite different challenges. Now ukiangalia the way the school system is structured in Kenya at high school, it's really tight because they don't have time. The situation, students have to be in class at this particular point. Break time, watu kula lunch for 20 minutes
and over 500
2,500, So that time, even engagement, the parent engagement is very minimal. So there's need for schools to invest in serious communication systems so that these things are happening. It will be, a case whereby 2 or 3 students wanaenda participate in some high-profile event. I think they assume, so they don't get the information to the specific parents.
Okay. And in light with the recent things that we've seen, on TV, where we've seen school buses getting involved in accidents and some students losing their lives while in these buses, do you feel ya kwamba kuna challenge fulani when schools having their children, their students participating in these events? Is there a challenge, especially from your experience, when it comes to now dealing with the children in areas where they lack, for lack of a better word, they lack control over? That means off-campus activities. Wametoka kwa shule, wako nje. Kuna changamoto in terms of ensuring their safety and security.
Yeah, it's very huge because, as I said earlier, when you're dealing with a group of students from different institutions, they're in buses, they're on the road.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're very hyper. Maybe they're just celebrating or getting something.
Yeah.
And remember, they are teenagers, so they would want to utilize that space. The school system is like a military camp. So when you get the opportunity to get out there, you will even decide to unataka kujaribu kuhang kwa gari ka makanga so that you feel nice. Yeah. And you see, no one is probably checking on that. Maybe there's only one teacher, there's a driver out. The teacher is there on paper, but alishuka. Direct pattern mbele. So you see that the whole system. And then when they get on the ground, the hosting institution has to also have mechanisms. To what extent do we have a budget, for example, to ensure that we are getting personnel to shield these children, even from outsiders?
Yeah.
I don't think anyone thinks about that. Come on, game, people are just there in the field. Anyone can sneak in, see the gate is open. And especially like schools that do not have those security measures on how to get in. Think of a day school or like some zonal activities huko mashinani. See, anyone walks in, anyone walks out.
Exactly.
And they interact with these students. Sometimes the students might be sly enough to even carry home clothes or anaweza nunua t-shirt hapa vae, so you will think he's not a student. So, and at that particular point, they are compromising their security. Should anything happen, people are running, a stampede comes in, who takes responsibility? Who is, manning the whole thing. And,
What do you think is a role that teachers can play in order to now make sure ya kwamba the safety and security, because umesema we are good on paper, but now what do you think the teachers or the staff can do to better improve the current state of what we are seeing in terms of safety and security of the students?
I think it begins with the administration. More or less the government, because if you look at, there was this joke going on that squeeze walimu our strike. What is happening? I think someone said we only teach what is in line with our salary. Did you see the number of E's last year? It was 40,000. So you see motivation. Saying a teacher will take responsibility requires this teacher. Of course they understand, but sasa kama hana motivation, maybe ameambiwa take these students because against their will. Maybe they didn't want, but jumkubwa amesema, see, I will go, then nikifika huko, I do my own things. So they have a role to play, and so the administration has to take responsibility and give enough resources in terms of human resources to the teachers. Ukituma mwalimu na akonja akupewa hata allowance ya lunch. See, ataenda kutafuta whatever they are going to, atasema me, I'm also like finding how to survive. So it starts with the resources, making sure that the whole thing is resourced. If you look at private schools, they are good at this. Public schools, hapo kuna challenge. Though the will be there, all is required is motivation and making sure that the teacher is well catered for, and so are the students. Also, students kama pia wamepewa enough resources, like enough lunch, so they will not be tempted to like sneak out of the wherever they are supposed to be to go and explore and see what is out there. They can't be compromised by strangers. But you see, if they are not well fed, well, resourced, then that's what comes in. So the role of the teacher here is to make sure that the students are safe, and there has to be a ratio, say 10 students to one teacher when it comes to this outdoor.
It's better manageable.
Yeah, uwezi weka mwalimu mmoja na kona watoto 60. Ukumbuke, a school has over 2,000 students. Unless huyu mwalimu hawezi jua kila mtoto, but at least if there are several, like 3-4 teachers, then they can map out that we have 60 students. Let us see, you will deal with these ones, me I'll deal with these ones, and so forth. Because kama kuna tournament, for example, an example like ball games.
Yes.
So unajua kuna volleyball pande hii, kuna football pande hii. So kama teacher ni mmoja na shule iko na timu 3, atakuwa wapi? Asaila ako huku, chenye inafanyika kule kwingine haizi jua.
Yeah.
And you see, you can't rely on the students themselves to take responsibility. Yeah. So the teachers have their role to play, but then again they have to be well resourced.
Okay. About communicating to the parents of these students, how best do you think we can improve communicating with the parents in line with incidences that happen? Let's say we've seen in the past mashule zimechomwa. We've seen in the past there's road accidents. We've seen in the past there are people who saa zingine unakuta because kuna funky ametoka ameenda shule, ametoka nje ya shule. How best can now staff or the school communicate with the parents on these cases?
I think communication, our schools, especially the public sector, are more of conservative. Okay. They would want, especially when there's a challenge like strikes, they would not want to let the information go public. But now, in this era, now issues are social media, information would leak. There was an instance, I asked a student from Chavakali, there was a time they went on strike. Yeah. And then wakasema ati walichinja ng'ombe. You see, that's what I saw on social media. So, student akasema hakuchinja ng'ombe. To them, that's news. Yeah. So, whoever started that rumor, you see, and everyone remembers that particular thing, but they don't know exactly what happened, what led to that. So, communication, schools have to invest. Ukiangalia shule mobs, zina nini, they don't operate like a corporate
corporate entity.
Where they have like this is our communication team. Schools, I think the way the administration is, the principal is everything. Anafaa communicate, walimu ni kufunza, then kuna supporting staff huko chini. So I think there is need for schools to invest in communication. Siku hizi vitu zimechange. Hata saa hii we have some national schools hawana hata website. You can't like send an email. But then again, I'm looking at it, walimu wenyewe hata kwanza hawana hiyo email. Ndio sasa. So it starts from there. When we have such a kind of a system in a setup, then it means communication will be somehow official. Okay. You will, you are competing against the social media, and people out here are very smart in creating content. That is negative. Especially all they need, they just need a trigger. So, but if you are ahead of the game, we know this school, unless they communicate this way, then it is not true. But sasa kama shule huku communicate ni ngumu.
I don't communication think, channel.
Shule hata kupigia mzazi, class teacher unajua anaweza amua apigi, jua anaogopa prinzi hajasema nipige. You see again there's that red tape. An incident may happen, mtu hii ni mgonjwa. I've heard those instances. Tumeisikia kwa social media. Mtoto alikuwa mgonjwa, akapelekwa sanatorium, then maybe they gave the child some painkillers. The child did not improve, but then akaambiwa wewe unaogopa kufanya exam, and then the child passes on. Hapo asa then they start panicking, they are not communicating, no one is communicating. It becomes a very serious issue, though na ilikuwa ni kitu ange communicate, maybe mzazi angeambiwa, angejua mtoto wangu najua huwa akona hii issue, so kama amecomplain hivi wacha nikuje nimpeleke shule. So schools have to really also trust the parents and understand that things have changed. Communication is very important. It is very rare for a school to communicate to parents when it comes to the welfare of the child. The only time they communicate is when they're asking fees arrears, money, if it's money related issue to
they'll
go to the child, they'll communicate. But when it comes to issues affecting the welfare of this child, I think they will tend to drag their feet, hoping that things will get better. And that's where we have the biggest gap.
When you're still on the same case of, communication and getting to know how to work with both different stakeholders within the premise of the school and even outside. Si shule mingi ziko na mabasi. Si shule mingi ziko na their own vans. We've seen even students who ride their bicycles, wengine wanapanda boda. to what extent does a school have to go ahead and collaborate with other stakeholders, for example, a bus company, to work with them, especially when it comes to ferrying the students or staff from one point to the other? How better do you think hii inaweza fanyika? Because tunaona tu kidogo watu wamepanda hii bus, wengine wamepanda pikipiki, wengine wako kwa noa, wengine, you know. Is there some order?
I think that question cuts on both ends. Peer parents have a role to play.
Okay.
I'll approach this in two scenarios. Huko kwa mtaa nimeona like Nissan imebeba watoto 30. These are 14 seater. Hata ina viti. Watoto wadogo inapeleka Kilimani Primary School. Huyu mzazi ndiye alipe hiyo gari. Ameenda kaangalia watoto ni wangapi. Na kwanza those guys, unajua those old gari amepaka
ina move tu lakini
so there's a very high risk of and here I think it's the parent who sanctions that move. On the part of the school, if the school doesn't have
mobility,
a bus or enough buses, I think they should be working in collaboration with other institutions. You get, it's easier for the school to talk to a sister school, who maybe if they have the bus, then so that the students are in a vehicle that is well maintained. And again, the safety of that bus in terms of insurance, like if you're the drivers, are they like people who are competent? They can still even hire a college, as long as it's a public institution, then it's better as long as you can be sure that you have the right documents, insurance, the driver. But ukienda kwa barabara hapo usimamishe matatu.
Mwambie ingia hapa.
You see, how sure are you that these fellas are going to even, matatu ni matatu tu. To them, these are passengers like
biashara.
Hawataangalia ni kama this is a special kind of a group. Watoto wadogo. And you see, they may even not be bothered if the children start misbehaving in that bus. So it's important that schools work in collaboration with the institutions that are around them when it comes to transport issues. And then also parents have to be vigilant. You may say I'm paying for school transport. But hujaiona mtoto wako kwa hiyo gari. Wewe kazi yako unapigiwa simu unalipa. But then do you know what normally happens?
So wazazi pia inafaa wakae macho, waulize hizi maswali, because at the end of the day accountability starts also with them to make sure that their children who are in school wakuwe able kuwa ferried vizuri from point A to point B. That was with regard with school, to school trips. Closing day, watatoa wapi mabasi za college?
So closing day, what I've seen in some schools are really trying because they have they communicate, or when it comes to that, they pass the information in the WhatsApp group. And then, especially girls' schools are very strict. They will not release your child unless you physically come, sign, or you pre-authorize someone to pick the child. But these are my boys.
Kuna gap.
My son goes to Nairobi school, and when I'm going to pick him, sometimes unapata kijana ametoka tu, okay, maybe amejiamini anajua home, but what's the parent thinking? Aende town, okay, akifika nyumbani 4, how will you know alienda wapi na pengine
hana simu.
So you see, again, then that's where we need also to look at it, like how do we get that to this student safety. Of course, there are those parents who, through those WhatsApp groups, will make sure that they are sending the class teacher money to book PSV for the kids to a particular town X. Then from there, of course, they'll have to share the contacts. It's very easy as long as you work with the school administration. Because even at the primary school level, you can be able to make sure that the transport issue is sorted. But if you leave it that they find their way home, I don't think it is safe. I don't think so.
itakuwa safe for the student kuwa tu peke yake hivyo na ni jioni.
So wakitoka hivyo na maandamano ikue
watafanya nini?
Doctors are striking, tear gas imerushwa hapo, and
inakuwa ni shida.
A student has been caught in the melee, what will happen,
inakuwa ni vibaya. True. We talked about your 6 to 6. Okay, mimi napenda kuangalia vitu practically the same way, and I said this before at some other fora, ya kwamba umeenda kwa petrol station na wameweka ile sign ya do not use mobile phone, na wewe unaenda kulipa na simu. Umeenda school funky na students wako kwa basi, gava imesema 6 to 6. Mtu anatoka Western na funky ilikuwa Mombasa. How do you ensure that mkitoka, is it working for us ama ina work against us, from both perspective, as a professional and also from a perspective of somebody who anaangalia tu vile vitu ziko kwa ground?
I think the question goes back to resources. Mombasa na Western, you can't do it in a day. So then it means at one point you have to target that tutoke asubuhi 6, around 6 tutakuwa mahali fulani, wa watoto walale, then tuendelee kesho.
Okay.
I think that's what should be happening. But for that to happen, it means you'll have to pay for accommodation at a point X.
Yeah.
But some people, that's why schools will then sneak students in private vehicles and then mark it private. Sasa hapo ikifika roadblock,
watakuuliza we ni shule na kwa nini unatembea?
So you see, somehow they will sneak out. But sasa kama basi ni yellow, unajua watajua tu ni basi ya shule na ita. Though they say unaweza ingiza hiyo basi kwa nearest police station.
Utalala wapi?
Usiwalale kwa gari.
Mzazi atakubali mtoto wake alale kwa gari.
So you see, so the question is, how best can we as stakeholders navigate such an incident where the distance is too far and these students have to be safe, get somewhere or rest, alafu or continue na journey. Of course, the school will want to get shortcuts to save on the cost. So utapata dere now, of course you know how our roads are. So achia mtu kitu kidogo hapo upite ukiendanga. So those are now the challenges we have.
I think when you're talking about pia hizo 6 to 6, as much as it may make sense, but does it mean that in the education system you're only focusing on accidents that occur at night? Because hata ukiangalia most of these incidences tulikuwa tunaona zinatendeka mchana. I feel we need to rethink and see how best to work, and I think through forums like this we're able to come up with those ideas, probably to incite a different thinking approach. For me, your 6 to 6, there are better ways that they can handle, because now during school time meenda funky, umefika huko hivyo, kutoka giza imewapata katikati, and yet as you said shule hazina resources za kumake hizo prior planning ya kukuwa na mahali ya kustop over na kulala na kukula na vitu kama hizo. Okay, let's say it works that way. Closing day, we've said, okay, they can talk and communicate with this private, these private companies, zenye zinaweza kuwa hapo kusaidia, the buses and all that, PSVs. But now, does it mean that hizo PSVs hazita travel tena usiku? And how will it affect the student? Because at the end of it all, tunataka hiyo continuity and sustainability. Kwangu mimi nafikiri we need to rethink through.
No, I think we, as a country, make decisions. Sometimes that I don't think I understand some decisions. I know, consider like the COVID period.
Yeah.
Why are we banning night travel?
Walisema COVID ilikuwa inatembea usiku.
Yeah, or why curfew, you see. Okay, I don't think I would understand. Matasa si gava imesema.
So paka tufuate.
Paka tufuate. But you see, no one thinks beyond giving such instructions, the implications. Yeah. You are saying that it's 6 to 6, but are you giving out like a disclaimer that should this happen, then this is what you need to do?
Yeah.
Because the problem here, we tend to make decisions punitive. We are always
inaitwa knee-jerk decision.
Alafu we are always holding people, or rather, if it was in like HR, like I would say McGregor's Theory X, and you are very on the negative side. Your intention is to punish. Let me ask you, for example, this is just an example. When a policeman arrests you for speeding, deep down their heart, do you think they are scared that you could have died?
Aguna.
So you see, those are the questions. When we make these decisions, are we really like thinking about this child, or are we just saying that these schools, or rather these drivers, are very rogue, and are we making decisions based on the best interest of this child, or we're just trying to say there have been so many accidents like sahi, sasa utaanza kuona NTSA wamejaa kwa barabara, then when zitaisha kidogo inaisha. The other day the president was talking about alcohol being sold at the terminal because that's where the drivers are. Juu amesema alcohol itarudi, ikisha enda kidogo inaisha. They said paint the schools yellow. Graffiti watu walikuwa wameweka, time itafika tu itakuja isha. They said seat belts during Michuki time. Sahi, do those school buses even have functional whatever? Because no one is checking. But one day when the transport CS will wake up, aseme kuna crackdown, people will fix. After 2 weeks, we go back to normal. So is it that we like being ruled by decrees, or we are thinking about the safety?
I think it cuts across it cuts across board, because hatujui kwanza tena ni nani ndio consequences zenyewe ni nani anakuja kukuletea, because we have all these policies, but at the end of the day now ni nani atakuja ku ensure ya kwamba all these things are done. Naona inaleta, it's a huge gap. Let's say kama you're handling the students. Yes, basi imepaintiwa ni yellow, hiyo basi iko na seat belt, and then now from a teacher's perspective, uko na students pale na ulikuwa unawapeleka mahali and then ndovu imepita. Achana na hiyo payment yenye president alisema atakupea watu, sema ndovu imepita na ndovu imepita mbele yako pale. What do you do as a teacher to ensure safety? Talk to the teachers out there, probably from experience, to what can a teacher do. Sema umesha implement kila kitu, but now there's a crisis. Walimu inafaa fanya nini?
I think teachers are taught to be very flexible, and you have to be conversant with your space. For example, as a teacher, if you know you are going to take students to a place X, you have to really start thinking about it and thinking of what could happen in this instance. What should I do? You also have to you have to understand the route. For example, you have to understand your driver. You have to work together with the driver. You have to you have to work as a team. Among the students also, you also have to make sure that the students understand that their safety is important. As you said, you could be having those seat belts, but students are put on. But you see, you don't have to bully and push them to do it. You have to have a culture whereby people are consciously aware of what they need to do when it comes to their safety. So as a teacher, one, you have to be conversant, you have to be well prepared, you have to be so fast in thinking and making decisions. You consult widely, and definitely you have to figure out in such an instance whereby a crisis has happened, what first step should I do first to minimize casualties? Even before calling the parent, or what steps will I take to avert damages from happening? So you have to take responsibility and be bold enough to make decisions towards minimizing damage.
Does it mean that teachers are trained to handle crisis? Ina happen kweli? Seme shule, kuna wakati mashule zilikuwa zinachomwa, and among many other incidences that do occur. Is there a fora for teachers to be taken through handling crisis?
I think it is important. For example, TSC has to invest in in as much as we are focusing on the delivery of the content, we need to equip teachers with the basic skills, come as an emergency, doing fire drills in schools for students, training students on safeguarding, like security issues, making sure that students are aware of their rights. They know how to navigate through incidences where, there are basic security training, but then the system does not allow for such issues. Ukiwa high school, I don't think kuna hiyo time tuliwahi trainiwa about hizi story na fire drill ama moto iko, or maybe someone has invaded the school. Sasa kama hizi shule ziko kwa bandit zones, you see, what measures, how are we securing these children? I think it is important we try and develop programs that are beyond the classroom on how to ensure that the students are secure. Otherwise, it is a disaster because the students are on their own should something happen. We've had cases whereby students walisema mtu aliingia kwa dome. I don't know if ni mtu ama waliona ama imagination.
Walikuwa wanasema maghost.
Yeah, so okay, on such issues, how are the security measures put in place? You can have everything in place, but if this child is not equipped psychologically and of course skills-wise, then it becomes difficult. That's why you see, it's important to have clubs in school kama hizi St. John. Vitu tu basic student wanafaa kujua kama first aid and such kind of things. People take them for granted, but it is very important. It helps a lot. So if the students understand that in times of a crisis, should this happen, this is what we need to do, rather than waiting to be given instructions by the teacher, then it becomes very difficult. So there's need for us to invest. Private schools are trying because they will bring in even consultants like you can come and talk to the students about safety and all that. But how many schools are willing to go out of the way to do that?
Hawana resources, and you mentioned that very clearly.
But they can create.
Ulisema tu wanaongeleshanga wazazi wakati ni school fees.
Pesa tuition.
So looking ahead, tukiangalia mbele in the near future, what changes and improvements based upon chenye tumeona so far going with schools? Leo tumemeasure tu on safety and security in schools, and how do you think we can be better at this when it comes to improving how we communicate and collaborate with parents, other stakeholders, and things like that?
This is the first time I think I've participated in a conversation around student security. And I don't think anyone cares to discuss these issues. What the government does is when a crisis has happened, they'll issue instructions. But you see why should you wait, So going forward, I think, in my opinion, there is need to have a multi-sectorial approach with security companies, for example, with many other stakeholders, even when it comes to health and all these things, so that the students are part of the conversation. You see, you cannot discuss my security without me being involved.
Yes.
I need to be told, for your security, this is what you need to do.
True.
And you can't leave this to parents alone, because 70% of the time, these students are in the school setup. So can we come together and be able to discuss one aspect at a time? Let us prioritize security. Security comes in from social media, that online bullying and all that.
Yes.
How do you protect kids from these? And when it comes to now, when they are going outside the school setup, but then they are still within the custody of the school administration. How are parents involved? Are parents informed adequately that your child will be moving to this place and these are the means of transport? This is where they'll be boarding and they'll be there for this time and this time, giving updates, regular updates. Should, in the event of anything, then how do we communicate to the parent? If you need the parent to be involved, how do you then have to communicate that information. I think it is very important. It is a conversation no one wants to talk about because we are busy now focusing on the CBC, arguing grade 9 itakuwa sijui wapi. But you see, while we talk about the content, yes, it is good. That's why schools are existing to teach. But then we are human beings. How are we socialized in that system so that we are secure, both psychologically, physically, and on all fronts? Because if my security is compromised, I may not be able to concentrate as a student. And as a parent, if I feel like my child is not safe, I'll not have peace. And then the teacher, if the teacher feels not involved, then they'll be like, teach and go home. So no one cares. But then it is important that we need to have a serious conversation and see how we can be able to work together. The security agencies, the parents, the communities, and the school administration, including that child in that conversation.
I've seen what IFAC does, and you're doing amazing things. Can you tell us what security measures you take, and probably how many kids do you handle at a given time to make sure that they are safe? And wakati unataka kupartner na mashule, what do you look for?
Like as I was telling you earlier, this week, actually tomorrow, I'm receiving 285 Form 1s that were recruited into the program this year. We are having a workshop. And during this workshop, we will be discussing a lot of things like life skills, basic things. So as these students come in, they're coming in from all over, from the coast to the north to the west to the south. They're all coming and we'll be at Moi Girls School in Nairobi. So as they come in, we first issued the letters through the schools. That's step one. So that the school knows that there will be a workshop of these sponsored students. So once the school knows and the teacher is aware, then that makes it, of course, collaborative. Then the child will take the letter to the parent and say, I received this letter, we are going for this workshop. So the parent is well prepared. It's been now 3 weeks since they received that communication. And then we went ahead and called each parent to just confirm that they received the information. And then the guidelines are the child must be in school uniform. Then, because tomorrow the schools are on holiday, so if you find a student in uniform, chances are tomorrow in town, chances are very high that they are IFAC students. They are coming for a workshop, unless otherwise. So then, and you see in that, and if a student is in uniform, it's easy to identify, and we all know instinctively they can easily be protected should anything happen. But then we will have a team of staff, over 10 of them, spread over in strategic places within town, and they know where they are coming to be picked. So there will be a bus, they'll be coming in, they'll be arriving at different times depending on where they're coming from. So as we get into now the workshop venue, we've already put mechanisms in place, like the boys section will be this way, the girls section will be this way. And then we have mentors, and enough mentors so that there's a ratio. For every 20 students, there is someone making sure that the students are being supported. So throughout the workshop, the security of these students is well catered for, and then we'll have to take an insurance for that 1 week, so that the students we are not taking any chances.
Anything can happen.
So that's what we do as an organization, which is very little. But then what if everyone did this, parents and government and community? So that's what we're going to do. And for that 1 week, we'll make sure we are there. And then when they are going home, the departure protocols also will be our responsibility to make sure that we are communicating to the parents. Dear parent, we are releasing your child at this particular point. They are in vehicle number XXX, because we'll have to mobilize specific vehicles based on where they're coming from and get into a contract with them to drop the students at specific places. Okay. There are those students who will from that workshop go back to school, or there will be those that will be retained because they may not go home, and then the school probably is opening on 2nd and they're leaving on 27th. So we will have to accommodate them until they go to school. Okay. And we are doing all this because we know if we release them without any procedure, then we are putting their lives at risk.
Basically, they become more susceptible to the risks and harm.
Yeah.
I think we can really dig deep into this conversation, and we've seen at the Crimeshield Funds, you've been able to see how safety and security is in every facet of life. Even in school, umeenda shule ni kusoma, but have you ever thought about your safety? Your child's safety wakati yako shule, akienda funky. These are conversations that we need to keep on talking from time to time. And thank you so much for creating your time to just come here. You can check out IFAC, all the details tutaweka hapa. Wakitaka kukupata watakupata wapi as a person?
As a person, they can find me. I have a YouTube channel, Benson Masero. I normally talk about matters of education. And but we can always engage.
Kabisa.
And I really like this approach because you should also consider creating a forum as Crimeshield to advocate for security in schools.
Definitely.
And I think you receive maximum support.
Yeah.
I can link you to the government through the ministry. I
Amazing.
think they need something.
Hiyo sasa tunaongea tu sahi.
Yeah.
So this place umeifind aje hapa penye tumerekodia? How do you find this place?
It's so amazing.
Yeah.
And very amazing because it's an open place. Place it's more secure.
So it's called Wojo. So you know the beauty about Wojo is that you can work and also relax. Kuna hoteli hapa. Unaweza kuja ubuku hoteli ulale, alafu unaingia kwa ofisi na unafanya kazi. So it's a shared working space. It gives you that experience.
Sure.
Located hapa hivi Upper Hill on the 10th floor, Marquee Hotel, former Crown Plaza. So wakati mnakuwa na hizo meetings zenu pia mnaweza kuja huko pia.
Sure.
Na muendeze, unaona iko very safe and secure.
Yeah, it's a good place, very calm, serene environment. Hakuna kelele za matatu.
Yeah. So for you out there, the Crimeshield fans, if you're watching this video for the first time, hakuna harm kusubscribe. Subscribe. Yeah? Like and share, because that's the only way we get to get this information to everybody globally. So until next time, keep it Crimeshield.
Thank you.